What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Aaron B, and welcome back to Jeff and AB's. I don't even know how to describe this show because we're just gonna do like a little bit of a hard knocks, but we're kind of do a little jumble everything. It kind of messed up. I was under the weather last week, and I could have talked and everything, but I wanted to give like the best effort, and I didn't want to be over there drowsy off of Tylenol and everything doing the show, not giving my best effort. So we came back and did it for next week, like a day before the NFL season starts. But how you doing, Jeff?
Good, man. Good. Yeah. It was a busy Labor Day weekend, first weekend of college football, which, around, in my world, that's another holiday. So it's like having back-to-back holidays. I was camping for 5 days, watching football for 5 days, trying to take it all in. I'm a little overwhelmed with all of the content that I took in and trying to not overreact to the college games, but trying not to underreact. And but again, I want to say that is like, this is a blast. This is my favorite time of year. I love doing this. I love, trying to figure out what we actually saw and what we didn't see. And it's been a good time. It's good to be back on with you, man. And Hard Knocks was cool. I will say this overall before we get to it. Buffalo Bills Hard Knocks was a good season. We got to see the inside of a championship caliber team, and again, that was really cool of the Bills to do that. So I just want to shout out to the Buffalo Bills for allowing us to peek behind the curtain of what could be the most important season in Buffalo Bills history.
I definitely agree. I know you're happy you don't have to say good things about the Buffalo Bills at the end of this episode.
Yes, it is. I'm telling you, they lured me in, man. By the end of it, here's what I will say is I'd still like the Dolphins and all that, but I do like this Buffalo Bills team more than the Dolphins team that I'm going to get force fed this season. So, shout out to the Bills. That's the main takeaway from this season. Shout out to the Bills for putting a team on the field that their fans can love, and respecting the fans and all that. They really do feel like a part of the city. They don't feel detached.
Yeah.
The whole 9 yards. So if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you're gonna have a good year. I really think you're gonna have a good year, and you deserve it. Apparently, apparently you love your team and you deserve it. Again, I got a team I love that we might talk about, so I get it.
Yeah. So we're definitely going to be talking. We got to talk about the big game, college football. It was a lot of great games and everything for a week one, especially because most of the week one games are like your Power 5 team goes against the FCS team, give them give the little small school some money and stuff to a new training facility next year. But we got some good quality games on week one, and let's talk about it. Ohio State versus Texas. That was a big defense game, but man,
yes.
And we talked about it, like whoever makes like those big plays is gonna win the game. And y'all came with the big play with cornerback Matthews made that interception. That's what I was like, yep, Ohio State's gonna win this game. And I'm upset about it, but I'm not mad because Matt Patricia had like the best defensive plan out there.
Yeah, it was so impressive. I'm not, I know anybody that's that listens to sports talk radio and the talking heads and all that, they're right. Everything they've said about what this defense was. Do we know that it's going to last and be this good and this confusing all year? No, we don't. But I will say for a week one game against what is going to be a good Texas team, who I presume will be, if they're not in the playoffs, they'll definitely be fighting for the playoffs right down to the last second. I was very, very impressed. I was impressed by the speed of it. I was impressed by the anger of the defense, and there were a few plays. And I think if you had to pinpoint the difference in the game, I think that Arch probably wasn't 100% prepared for a full speed physical defense. And I don't know how you would be, because you're not allowed to get hit in training camp. I mean, there's no way, and we're going to see that with the NFL season coming up. When these quarterbacks have all the time in the world, even when the play is bad or breaks down, they still have that extra half second to make a decision. So you just have this false confidence. And I will say that Ohio State, I thought saying they prepared him to be like, it almost like, if I can imagine it almost, they were like, if you get to 3 in your head and you've got the ball, you're going to get killed. It really felt like he played not faster, like as far as like just better, but faster as far as like, it's too late to make a decision, get either chuck the ball away or throw it in the dirt or whatever. Again, I'm not, was Arch disappointing to Texas fans? I imagine you'll tell us that they was, but I'm also going to sit here and say, like, he's going to be all right. He's going to get better by the time they start playing, like, real games. Like, his stats are going to be great. He's going to be so much better. I am going to give credit to Ohio State and say that was a tough place. That was a tough place to start your career, as the next guy for Arch. And if they played 2 more quarters, it might be different. But again, that's kind of the same story of last year. But we'll take it. I think I put it this way. I think the bottom line was Ohio State was a little more ready at the beginning of the game than Texas was, and Texas just didn't have time to catch up. Not that they're really that much worse, just that they didn't have time.
Yeah, you can definitely tell Arch still has some dust on his arm and everything. Yeah. And like you were talking about, most quarterbacks, they're not getting hit or anything during training camp or anything like that. So quarterback play is not going to be at the level as to be in week 5. So he's got 3 big games where he can get 3 confidence booster games. He got this week San Jose State, Sam Houston, and UTEP. So he'll be back on the right foot against Florida, which is going to be a challenge. Florida's actually looking pretty decent this year. And it's overall, it came to like the defense. Like I said, it was a defensive game.
Yeah.
It just didn't make the big plays like Ohio State did on their end. You did get to see our tight end, Andrew, who got from California. You can see he's going to be really good. Livingstone looks like he's going to be a good wide receiver.
Yes.
I was actually impressed from what I've seen from him. I'm glad he made that big play.
Yeah, because Matthews was all over that. And Livingstone made the play. Like that was a 50-50 ball to me. And Livingstone, the better player at that second won it. Because I would go back and say that Matthews should have deflected that ball and whatever. But I mean, all credit to the people who make the plays. Like, Texas is gonna be fine. The only thing they lost was at the end of the season. I mean, really, it's just the loss column at the end of the season. They probably can't take getting upset by A&M or something like that through the season now. That's all it really took away. It didn't really take away anything that they can achieve this season.
Yeah, I think our biggest challenge would be definitely Georgia, and of course our rival that followed us to the SEC, OU, and then A&M. That's still a challenge either way, but those are our main big challenge games. But the only thing I had when it came to the play calling with Sark, and then when it came to the goal line, I would rather go for the field goal just to get some points on the board instead of always going for the touchdown. I know it's not the sexiest thing to do, but getting some points on the board, like keeping the game kind of close, and then maybe a possibility to win the game. But I understand he wants to go for the touchdown. Understandable, but I'm just nitpicking. I kind of would have just went for those 2 field goals, then it'd been 13-14. But that's my biggest nitpick on the offense.
Yeah, and I think it's fair. I mean, and it's college football. I mean, Texas fans, and I don't mean this as an insult, should be disappointed because you have a good enough team to win that game, and you know that if you play it 10 different ways, you might win 5 of them. I would admit that as an Ohio State fan, and I would say that everything Ohio State did worked out. I mean, I know, it's hard work and preparation and all that, but things could have easily, a ball bounces here or there, and then we're talking about a different outcome. I mean, I'm not so silly to think that, Ohio State's any different than Texas. And I said that in the national champion or the national semifinals. The difference in that game was 1 play. Like either one of those teams could have won the national championship last year, and either one of those teams could have won that game Saturday. Again, the other side to Ohio State's just the opposite I said about Texas. That gives them 1 more game to lose throughout the season. That's all that victory did was now if they slip up to a team that they shouldn't, they've got that one in their back pocket. It was cool to watch though. I was proud of Ohio State fans for showing up. It looked great. They definitely, were loud. I mean, I've got actual friends that were at the game and said it's the loudest Ohio State game they've been to. And there's been some big games there. It was the most watched game, of course. I think they said it was the most watched noon game in history. And that's a credit. Usually it's just Ohio State or just Texas that gets credit. But with both of these colossal teams in there, they're literally, to me, it's like they're stepbrothers. That's like the movie Step Brothers. It's like they're the exact same. They're trying to live in the same house together. They secretly are best friends, but they're also rivals. I mean, it's a unique. I kind of hope that somehow, whether it's through the playoffs or whatever, the rivalry kind of keeps on going, because what I like about it is they're both in the same spot as neither one of them should ever lose. Neither one of them's ever really the underdog. Neither one of them can ever plead, oh, woe is me. Like, they have all the resources, all the money. They're just it's Godzilla versus King Kong when these two teams play. So there's a mutual respect there. And, there's obviously, like, I got friends like you that, there's no hatred towards Texas or whatever. Did I love the win? Yes, but it's not the same way that Florida State liked beating Alabama. It's not like that. So it was just a good game, and both teams are going to move on, and there's a very, very, very good chance that they see each other again this season.
Yeah, when it comes to Texas and Ohio State, you can see there's mutual respect. You can shake hands after the game and say good game, but yeah, at FSU and Alabama, FSU, you thought they won the national championship.
So I want to get your opinion on this, AB.
Yeah.
I said this today. Now, I am not taking away what FSU did. That was a great victory. They were the, quote, underdog, from Vegas, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. They did win a great game. They did kick their butt. With a new quarterback and all this. But we're talking about a team that 2 years ago, outside of an injury, they went undefeated, could have or should have made the college football playoffs. They've won a national championship in the last, 12, 13 years or whatever it's been. Should they be that excited over beating an Alabama team that we're not sure is that good? Is that still okay to be that excited over just beating a brand? I don't know. I was kind of like, and again, we're fans of two colossal programs. I don't know when Ohio State's ever allowed to be that excited over beating anybody, because we're just never at that stage. I don't know if Florida State's been down, they've only been down for 24 months or 18 months. and they're acting like, they're Florida A&M beating Alabama. But how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I was excited for them, but it kind of, when you look at it, it's like it's too too overly big over how they beat this team.
Yeah,
because this ain't like the Alabama. I don't feel like this is the Alabama team, like the saving Alabama teams where you're like, okay, yeah, we beat the big dog. Like, let's see how Alabama's going to be this year. They may just be a solid team that may lose a couple of games here and there, because I just don't see this team as like the Alabama team that always went to the playoffs or was a top 5 team. So I would kind of just pump the brakes. I know this was a Florida State team that lost a lot of players last year.
Yeah. And a tough year, tough mental year. I'm not saying they shouldn't be excited. I want to be clear.
Yeah, you can't take away that getting a big win at home and everything, but I would just kind of pump my brakes, get into let's see how the Florida State team's going to be in week 5, and then let's see what this Alabama team's all about. I just don't see the same Alabama team that's in the dominating SEC.
No, they just don't look as physical, and they don't. I mean, it's all the obvious stuff. You don't see that killer instinct and everything, the discipline and all that. And I'm not one to sit here and say that DeBoer needs. It's none of my business what DeBoer does. I think he's probably a good coach. To get a coach like Saban is such a rare feat. We had Urban Meyer for a while, and he's a guy that can step in, and he's so good that changes your program immediately. To find those guys is pretty rare. So it may take a second and I think there's a lot of truth to the fact that, like, it is tougher on Alabama that these other teams, the difference in that game, let's face it, is that Florida State went and got Castellanos through the portal. And that was the difference in that game. So that's what's changed in college football, is that you no longer can just hoard all the best players and outman the other team. Like, they go get players in the offseason and make themselves better. Again, Ohio State beat Texas because they got an Alabama commit to transfer, the number one, recruit, insane. And like, just being a tad bit better at quarterback instead of maybe depending on a guy that wasn't there was the difference. I mean, it's the tiniest differences, but maybe Alabama, now that they've lost those edges across the board, now maybe things evened out a little bit. And this is what this might be what the future of college football looks like, is that, teams like Texas, Ohio State, Alabama, they don't have that guaranteed built-in advantage over every team that they used to because of NIL and transfer portal. And to me, I think it's great. It's scary, but it's great because you can turn into Alabama and Florida State. Florida State won 2 games last year. Then they won none. They lost none the year before. Like, that's how quick this sport changes now. So, it definitely, it wakes you up. Let's put it that way.
I definitely agree, because you could see this 2-10 Florida State team. They may switch around and make 10-2 just because
they look good.
I
like Castellanos' attitude. I mean, again, it was fun. Like you said it though. It was just fun for college football fans to watch. LSU Clemson was awesome. Another great game. Well, how fun was it to watch a 17-10 game that was really fun? I mean, it wasn't like a dud. It was fun. Like, I heard somebody say the Ohio State, Texas game was a dud. And I'm like, well, you didn't really watch it, or you didn't care, because that game was not a dud. It was low scoring, but it was tense from kickoff to the kickoff was the first kickoff was a penalty for not faking, but unintentionally faking the. I mean, that's when that started. From kickoff to the end of the game was tense. So it was not a dud, just like Clemson LSU was not a dud at all.
That definitely wasn't a dud. The only thing that kind of gets my nerves is, that tradition at Clemson where they show them the whole, you got to go from this part of the stadium where all the players get in one bus. It was overkill for like 10 minutes, and then we got to wait for them to get out. And they all got to run down the thing. No offense to Clemson, but it's just like it was.
We don't care. It's probably the same. Like, we all have these. Actually, Texas really isn't that irritating. But like, I know Ohio State. Like, I get it. Everybody's like, "Oh, script Ohio." Like, I totally get if but the Clemson thing is like, "Oh, here we go before the game again," and you're like, "Come on." Like, we've seen it. It's something about a Dabo coach team that's just annoying. Now, obviously, Ohio State and Clemson have a pretty nasty history, but it's just like, come on. Like, you're not different. You just ran down a hill. You ran down a hill. Like, I don't even know why you're doing it. I don't even know why you're trying to run into a rock before a game. I don't understand. And I don't, whatever. I guess. But again, that's one of those that, like, it didn't bother me to see LSU win, even though Brian Kelly, there's the other side of it. Now, Brian Kelly's as irritating as anybody in college football. So all of a sudden he gets to act like he hasn't been a complete failure at LSU because they win a game, and they want to jump them to the number 1 spot. They probably do have the most prepared quarterback in the country right now. I think he's probably the most prepared. I don't know if he's the best, but he's the best at this second of the game. So it'll be interesting to see how good they can get. If their defense is going to be good, LSU's obviously a contender.
Yeah, it's still – I know he's been there for like 3 years, but I still can't believe Brian Kelly is LSU head football coach. And then hearing the interview, it just throws me off because I'm like, man, I just want to hear somebody that has a Cajun accent, or at least was from the South and LSU, but we got a guy from – is he from – where is Brian Kelly from?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure. I think he's an East Coast guy.
Yeah, and it just throws me off. And then you could just that sheer arrogance from Brian Kelly when he wins the game is just like,
oh yeah, he's a snot.
Yeah. And I'm like, I like LSU, but you just make it so hard for me to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's not as easy to like as the Ogeron. Let's put it like. And I didn't like Kelly. Kelly, when he was at Notre Dame, was the perfect fit. The perfect irritating coach for a perfect irritating team and university. I love Marcus Freeman.
Yeah.
I hate that he's there and I have to root against him constantly. He's a beloved Buckeye, even though like he's admittedly like, totally like he's totally Notre Dame and wants to kill the Buckeyes. That's fine. Someday I think that'll change, wink, wink, but we'll see. But it's tough for my man, for me to root against my man every week. But that was a great game Sunday night. What a great, let's a shout out to college football too, for as much stuff as they do screw up. Owning the Labor Day weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Well, they tried Monday. I love it. The Sunday night college game, it is the first Sunday night of the year is fantastic. It doesn't compete with the NFL. It's really typically always a huge matchup. It's always great. It looks great. And Sunday night was awesome. Notre Dame, Miami Sunday night was just fun, especially for an old guy like me who remembers the rivalry from day one. I can remember every, Miami Notre Dame big game, in my lifetime, the last 40 years. And so that was just, and that, again, I've said this, I've beat the drum about the 12 team playoff. This is why I love the 12 team playoff, because I don't need one of these teams. I don't need Texas. I don't need, Notre Dame. I don't need Clemson. I don't need any of these teams to be eliminated from the national championship because they lost an awesome game. So it made it a great weekend, and Miami's good. Carson Beck looks like he's back to a couple years ago. Carson Beck. I enjoyed the game. It was fun. It looked good under the lights. So again, Sunday was all. I mean, watching South Carolina was cool. I think they're a pretty good team, but Sunday night was awesome. And college has just got it right. Don't ever give that up. Pretty soon the NFL is just going to throw an extra game in there on that Sunday night to start the season or something. They're going to play in like Yugoslavia to start the season and take away that Sunday night game from college football. I know it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's gonna be in some obscure country. Like I didn't know they even had a stadium.
Yeah, there's just be people standing around watching an NFL game, but but they'll do it. That was cool though.
Yeah, you definitely tell college football definitely been having their notepad for years, trying to figure out how we're gonna bring out more college football games.
Yes.
It's just sadly the Monday game was it the TCU versus North Carolina game.
Dude. Bro,
that was rough.
North Carolina got wrecked. Shout out to my man Couch Coach Live. I feel for you. It started out when North Carolina scored. I'm like, oh, here we go. Like they're going to be competitive. I'm going to sit here on Monday night, last game of the weekend. I got to go to work tomorrow. I'm settled in, and then 15 minutes later, I'm like, oh. And it was one of those games because college football is the rare game that can do this. Sometimes in the NFL, like maybe like the Super Bowl last year, you could tell that like, okay, this isn't happening. But college football is one of those sports that, like, I think you could tell as soon as TCU scored that next touchdown, you're like, oh, this physically looks different. North Carolina is done, and it never got better. I mean, TCU it got worse every play. Like TCU just ran through them. They were more physical. Their quarterback looked great. Just across the board. I mean, North Carolina, honestly, like, player to player didn't look like they belonged on the field with TCU, who I'm just going to guess that TCU is not going to be great. I'm not saying they're going to be a bad team or not going to compete for the Big 12, but I don't think they're a great physical NFL loaded team. And they dwarfed North Carolina that night. Belichick has got a problem down there.
Yeah, he definitely does. I'm going to try to be a little fair that he got a lot of new guys and this is a new team, but it's
impossible job.
Yeah, it's definitely a rough job that he's acquired. Because I honestly thought Bill Belichick would just enjoy his retirement with his girlfriend and be on the Manning cast.
I think he's enjoying his work life. I'm just saying. It's just judging by Instagram. I think he's enjoying life. He's enjoying life.
He's definitely enjoying life, but because Bill Belichick's actually smiling now, and that's good for him. But when it comes to the football aspect, you're like, okay, he may have lost the touch. He's too smiling for me now.
Yeah, you're right. I will say that the pregame interview in classic Belichick Hall of Fame fashion was terrible. He didn't really answer the question. He didn't have anything interesting to say. It was classic Bill Belichick, and I was like, "That's the guy I remember." Yeah, I'm not. I won't say I'm not piling on North Carolina. I definitely am. I'm not sitting here saying that like they should have been better or anything. I didn't think they would be good this year, but I mean, they got physically pushed around by a TCU team that, like, I don't. Maybe this TCU team's really good. I mean, they're going to give somebody problems. Like if you got like a experienced dude at quarterback and athletes on the edge and defensive linemen, like you can win in college football. Like it still boils down to the, the bros versus the Joes or whatever. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, TCU always known for having like good, like twitchy defensive linemen. So that's not.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, they're underrated. They're usually on the smaller side, but they're usually quick and you're like, oh, he might have a chance in the NFL. You may hear from him again when they get there, but most of the time they're like that 6'2".
That's a good point. You don't up and down the NFL roster. There's not a lot of TCU guys, but they've had a great program for 20 years. So that's kind of that's interesting that you say that. Outside of Andy Dalton, yeah, Andy Dalton, bringing it up. So what I've heard from Texans is they're not like how they described it to me when I was there was that TCU is their Notre Dame. They're like, nah, none of us like them. Like even the people that live here don't like them. How's TCU? Where do they rank in Texas sports?
Yeah, they're kind of in that category. They because I was trying to find college. I was doing that college preview last year. And there's literally no TCU podcast. And I talked to a couple of people like, yeah, they're on the snobbish side.
That's what I keep hearing. They're just like it because I didn't really enjoy my time with them. I didn't know anything about them, and we went down there for the game, and I didn't really enjoy my time with them. But that's obviously we're High State fans. Nobody likes us. I get it. No problem with that. And then when I talked to some people like some Longhorns fans or whatever about it, they're like, yeah, we don't like them either. Like it wasn't like a Texas versus Ohio thing. It was the TCU is its own thing. And that's kind of how Notre Dame is in the Midwest. Like you either like Notre Dame or you don't. It's not a regional thing. It's you either do or you don't.
Yeah. It's the nicer way to say about TCU from what I heard, because I'm from the south part of Texas. I don't know a whole bunch about TCU,
gotcha.
But it's kind of more like a TCU club. They just stick to themselves.
Okay. That's the vibe they gave off.
Yeah. So they're like, oh, you public schools, get away from us. We're better than you type of thing. So
But that being said, great college football weekend. I mean, great. One of the all-time great college football weekends. What's good about it is now that like money trickles down to the players and stuff, we're going to get more of this because now you can make more money by the bigger games and all that, and you can filter that money in that you need to get the quarterbacks, to get the bigger games. So I do believe that it will start a trend of like, I don't think this will be the last weekend that we see like this. As long as none of these teams get punished for the opening week loss, because that's the thing. If they punish Texas at the end of the season for losing that game, then why would they ever play it again? So that's the key, is that they almost, I'm not saying overlook it, but, if it comes down to like 3 losses versus 2 losses, but you had a huge, that's the secret to keeping this alive, or every team's just going to be like, screw it. Like I'm not going to play anybody outside of conference. So I hope that it works out in the favor of all these teams that, had the big games this weekend, that they don't get punished for it.
Like a good thing we're in a 12 playoff system. Like I feel like you can take 1 loss, but 2 is kind of pushing unless you're really in a really good scenario, like schedule wise. But I feel like 1 shouldn't affect you from at least being a chance in the playoffs.
The biggest thing is now that, like I said, the 1 loss just puts tension on you. You know what I mean? Like you don't, like now you've lost your, security blanket. Now you really want to try and run the table. That's what it does now, which is kind of cool. I mean, is it fair? Not totally, but all these teams are going to take a loss. You know what I mean? And then they're all going to be in the same situation, just like Texas has to live with it longer, like than Ohio State, obviously. Ohio State's going to lose a game. It's going to be later down the road, and they're going to be in the same boat of like, okay, now we can't lose again. So all it really does is like 4 or 5 major programs, like Alabama's in big, like Like, it's on the line now. They can't lose again, especially looking like that. So what's good for the fan is now that when we watch an Alabama game, no matter who it is, you're like, don't slip up. Don't slip up or you're done. You know what I mean? Now you start looking at the schedule down the road. Like Texas is already like, okay, now we can't lose to this team or we can't lose to this team. And then that puts that when you watch the game, that gives that extra sense of urgency. And again, it just benefits college football fans. And that's what the sport really is. I mean, it's a TV sport. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I know. But before we get off of college football, I wanted to show my respects to a legend in the broadcast game, and that was Lee Corso, who had his final game. And he did it in the craziest thing. He did the mascot head for the Ohio State versus Texas game. And he predicted Ohio State in 1996's first game.
Yep.
Ohio State won. And then in his last one, Ohio State won this game. Just doing a little quick one. What's like your biggest Lee Corso moment?
It was probably when he picked the magical, because obviously Ohio State was one of the first places that they went on the road, and it was the first place that he put on the headgear. So, and he was, so we always back then he was Ohio State friendly, which you don't get a lot now, because now everything's got to be negative, right? And you're seeing that this week in Texas. Everybody, like, now the game is to like just come down as negative as you can and clickbait. Lee was never like that. He was very friendly to Ohio State when he came on campus and all that. And the 2002 championship season, they did a ton of the games, and he picked them to win the national championship and put on the headgear. So that's probably my biggest and I'm a person, I've probably basically watched every year of Corso's career on College Game Day. Like, I'm old enough that when I was a kid, I started watching it, and I watched, 40 years of it, or almost whatever it's been. So he's a huge part of my life and a huge part of game day. And I just want to tell everybody, like, if you're not old enough to have seen it all the things that they said about Corso and how much he meant to college football and what a big deal this was is all true. Like, I know, like, if you were born in the year 2000, it's hard for you to understand that the game day wasn't what it is now, and you shouldn't. But just everything everybody said about him, if you watch the specials, if you listen to all the thank yous, if you read all the notes, every bit of it is true. What an impact that he had on the sport, on the pre-games, on the traditions, on the, even the knowledge of it. All that stuff is true. If anything, it's understated, the impact that he had. A true legend of the game. I was glad to see that he was able to go out. Personally, it was super cool to see it happen in the shoe, and to see, that's just near and dear to me. But wherever it would have happened would have been cool. So, yeah, the 2002 season along with Corso and the gang, and that was the first like major. That's when game day was just skyrocketed, that season, and really figured out what they had. I like to think the Ohio State was a part of that, for showing up and being a part of game day. I've even got a hat. I've got a hat that has College Game Day on it, the official game day hat, and all these things. So, yeah, shout out to Corso, a great career. Just really understood what the sport's about from day one, and even at 90 years old still got it, and went 6-0, I believe, in his picks on his last day. Even picked his beloved Florida State Seminoles. So shout out to him. Cheers to Corso. And again, everything everybody said was true about that man's career.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And he's one of those few commentators like that there's not probably one person on this earth that's gonna say anything bad about, because
100%.
There's a lot of them that you run to somebody, I can't stand this guy and everything, but there's nothing on like Lee Corso, the Ernie Johnsons, and the Dick Vitales. Nobody's talking bad about those type of guys when it comes to the sports media world.
Oh, and a quick favorite moment was the night we were watching the game and his car got struck by lightning at the Virginia Tech game. He used to call the Thursday night games, which another thing. Yeah. Thursday night games used to be huge because it was an extra college football game you got. And like the ACC, Virginia Tech, that's when their popularity took off, because they were like, hey, we can have a standalone, national televised game. And when Lee Corso's car got hit by lightning in the parking lot of that game, that was a great memory. So, yeah, Corso, man, that's it's awesome that he I mean, I don't want to say lived long enough, but was able to see the end of the journey in person, and that we're not talking about him in the past. It's just freaking cool, man. No, never be replaced. Can't replace it.
Yeah, like I'm glad he got his flowers while
Yeah.
he's still alive. That's the main thing. And,
Yeah.
and he ended on a high note.
Well, yeah, he's wearing Brutus. I mean, well, yeah, that's how I want to go out, AB. I can tell you that right now. I've actually got a friend that was Brutus for a year. Really cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep.
But how did he enjoy it?
Oh, yeah, he was awesome. Loved it. Yeah. He was a cheerleader for the next couple of years. He's a young guy, but he was a cheerleader for the national championship team in 2014. Actually carried one of the flags out onto the field before the game and everything. So we were super proud of him. But yeah, he was Brutus for a year. Even when he was a little kid, he told me he was going to be Brutus someday, and by gosh, he did it.
Hey, good thing about
so did Corso.
Good thing about him being a mascot in Ohio, because imagine being a mascot in Texas wearing that uniform. Probably, I don't know how they do it, because if I did, I'd probably pass out the first game.
Yeah. Again, Texas, great mascots, great colors. All the respect in the world to the Texas and their fans out there. I think we're destined to meet again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hopefully it's soon, because it was a great game. This game and the game before, there hasn't been like from even when that Fiesta Bowl game, it's always been a great game against Ohio State.
Yeah, that one stings. That Fiesta stings. The 2005 Vince Young coming to town, one of the great games in college football history. Vince Young won by, just being Vince Young. That one sticks with me. Then we got him back the next year in 2006. The Fiesta Bowl rocked me. So last year's semifinal, really, that was satisfactory. That was the one that I needed, after all those years. And then, Saturday, of course, was icing on the cake. And then, next time, I don't think it can be 3 in a row. So I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, it's not going to be 3-0, but lastly, before we end the show, we got to definitely talk about the NFL season starting literally tomorrow. So I have 2 games we got a Thursday game. It's the Cowboys versus the Eagles. And then we got Friday. We're going to Sao Paulo, Brazil,
scary,
for the Chargers and the Chiefs game. So I just want to get your quick predictions. Who do you got winning against the Cowboys versus the Eagles?
I'm just going to go the easy way. I think the Eagles are just a complete, very, very good team. And the Eagles are a young team that didn't lose a lot of players. There's no reason for them to have a Super Bowl hangover. They had that 2 years ago after losing to the Chiefs. I think that they, have rebuilt and moved on. Cowboys have had a lot of stuff going on. I think Cowboys are going to be better than a lot of people were telling me this year. I think they're going to be a really good team. I just don't know if they're quite ready now. I think the Eagles are just ready now. Like they're really just kind of, they didn't even reload. They're just kind of like re-upped and, they're going back out. I think Hurts getting that off his back is going to be a better quarterback. So I think the Cowboys are just probably not ready for this game right now, but I do think that they're going to be a playoff contender. I'm not worried about that. But yeah, I take the Eagles. And then Friday, I'm just going to straight say this feels like it's got Chargers beating the Chiefs all over it. I think the Chiefs here's what I'm going to take away from the Chiefs. I think that the Chiefs that we saw in the Super Bowl might be the Chiefs. I think that might be the real Chiefs, and that wasn't a fluke and that they didn't have a bad game. I think that might be the Chiefs. And I think if you're the Chargers, you've had all this time since that playoff loss, and if the Chargers know if they win this game Friday night, then they got a great chance of making the playoffs. I know it sounds silly week 1, but it's true. You've already got the tiebreaker and all these things, and Harbaugh's the kind of guy that I've seen it for years and years, can get his team up and make them understand what a big game is. It's that weird game in Brazil. There's no way that the Kelsey stuff can't be a distraction. And if nothing else, Kelsey's just not. They didn't replace Kelsey, so he's still their starting tight end, which I think is a giant mistake. The receivers are still banged up, and the receivers aren't that good anyway. I think this has all the makings of the Chargers whooping the Chiefs Friday night in Brazil.
Yeah, I think that defense is definitely going to be stepping up, and then adding like a Marion Hampton with a Najee Harris. So
right,
I feel like when you're in that type of that area, you got to run the ball well, and you can definitely tell that they got a solidified run game. And when it comes to the Chiefs, they've been dealing with so many injuries for the past 2 years, and then guys are getting suspended, and guys are not playing at the same level because they're getting older and everything. The Chiefs are in a weird scenario where they'll still be a good team, but they're not. I don't think they're going to be this juggernaut team like they've been for these past couple of years.
I'd be shocked if they were. I don't know how they could be.
Yeah, and in my world, that's perfectly fine with me, with the Chiefs not being a juggernaut team. I don't know about you, but I'm going with the Chargers. And then the Eagles, I definitely had the Eagles winning this game. I think this is a game where the Cowboys are still trying to figure out what they got going on and everything. And I think the Eagles are just, they didn't even lose any pieces.
Yeah,
they just added on.
Yeah, there's nobody injured. I mean, they're just they're at home. They're just in a great position they feel like a Super Bowl team that's probably going to, I think by the time we get to week 8, everybody's going to be saying, can they go back to back? I'm not saying they will, but I think they're really going to start off where they left off. And I think the next time they play the Cowboys, that it's going to be a huge game.
Yeah, that probably the game we win, but this game I got the Eagles win this game for sure. But I appreciate you, bro, for being on the show. Before I let you go, is there anything that you got going on this week?
I don't know what else I got this week. I got a bunch of stuff going on. I'm headed to Kentucky for the Ole Miss game. Okay. So, I'm going to kind of be, out of bounds for a minute. Jeff Needs Sports should be back next week. I've been doing content. It's just been, I've had like literally a couple days a week to try and squeeze everything in. So I appreciate you doing a football show with me. Let me get it out of my system. If you're hearing this on my podcast, make sure you go check out Tacos and Touchdowns for all the stuff that me and AB have done over the summer. And I appreciate you listening, and you can check me out on the X at jhunt006. And again, thanks for everybody that listen. Appreciate the Buffalo Bills for doing Hard Knocks. Yeah. Shout out to Texas fans. I want you to know that it's we respect what you did. We do not take lightly. It's a compliment how much we appreciated winning that game. It's not an insult. So and it's a long season, and we'll see what happens in January.
Absolutely. And everybody else that's on the Tacos and Touchdown, make sure to follow my guy Jeff on Jeff Needs Sports. He definitely been doing some great content, and definitely I know he's gonna be doing some more and everything.
Oh yeah.
So college football is here, NFL is here, so we're gonna be busy. But I appreciate you, bro, for being on the show.
Absolutely, man. Love it.
Yes, sir. This has been Tacos and Touchdowns. Y'all have a good one.